Hey y'all, it's Tyler from O.T.R.Outdoors, and I know I said at the 175 mark I would do a bio background video on myself, and when I checked day before yesterday, I believe, I was 2:15 or so this is a little late. It's been super busy. Some of this video will explain why it's been late, and I will try to keep this short as I can, but grab yourself a cup of coffee, and we'll get started. Alright, so first off, we're going to talk about me, and then we'll talk about the channel. I'm originally from Northeast Texas. A lot of people are going to say Piney Woods area. Not so much for me. The two counties I predominantly grew up in were a good mix of hardwood and cedar, actually. At least the properties that I was on the majority of the time growing up. I grew up off and on 300-acre ranch that's owned by my grandparents. Lived there on and off throughout the years. Lots of time playing in the woods, hunting, fishing. Learned stuff from, I got two uncles. My mom grew up out there as well on that property. My dad likes to fish, so most of my fishing stuff I learned from my dad. Several ponds and creeks on the property, so lots of fishing, like I said, and lots of hunting. So that's where I come from initially, growing up hunting, fishing, being in the woods. Got into survival books about middle school. I read My Side of the Mountain for one of my classes. Along with that, every year my dad's side of the family, we do a big camping trip in Oklahoma. And I cannot remember the name of the state park right now, otherwise I'd tell you. But we go up there every year. We went up there every year from way before I was born. My great-grandmother started the tradition. At a minimum, a long weekend, so 3 nights or 4 nights at a minimum every trip. When I left for the Navy, and when I graduated high school, so every year from birth, we have pictures of me less than a year old in a pack and play with mosquito net there until I was able to go 2 times after I joined the Navy, so up to about age 20 or 21, somewhere around there. Along with that, that side of the family also every year, starting when I was age 5, we started skiing. And then when I got into my teens, I switched over to snowboarding, and that's usually a 3 to 4 day trip as well, so quite a bit of time in the snow growing up as well. I have two male cousins. One's a month older than me, one's a little bit younger, about a year and a half younger than me. The 3 of us, as soon as we got down with the slopes, we'd be out building snow forts and snow shelters, just hanging out in the snow the whole time. So good bit of time of snow in the snow and in the mountain areas, as far as skiing and snowboarding, and just playing in the snow and building shelters and stuff. From there, when I graduated high school, I joined the Navy. I did 6 years active duty in the Navy. My first, I was a hospital corpsman. If you don't know what a corpsman is, it's the Navy's version of a medic. Along with that, the Marine Corps, all medicine for the Marine Corps is done by the Navy, either Navy docs, Navy nurses, or Navy corpsmen. Along with Corps School, before I showed up to my first duty station, I went to Field Medical Service School, what was at the time called Field Medical Service School. I don't know the name of it now, but that is the school where you go to learn how to integrate as a Navy personnel into Marine Corps Command, primarily focusing on the infantry side of the house and some on the wing. So with that course, land nav and small unit tactics, and field life, how to live out in the field, either tents or without tents, how to have proper hygiene in the field, how to set up a camp for large amounts of bodies. That's a big part of it for the corpsman as far as the health side of it. Then from there, I went on to Washington State. Whidbey Island was my first duty station. I was at a hospital there. I worked on the multi-service ward. So being in the Pacific Northwest, I did a whole lot of hiking, couple of camping trips, nothing huge. We did, I think my biggest one while I was there was like a 3-day that I did with some buddies of mine, and one of my buddies, his parents owned property on this lake, so we went out and camped at the lake there. Lots of hiking in the mountains there. While I was there, I also did a field training exercise every year for the 2 years I was there with the one Marine unit that was on the base, which was more small units, tactic stuff, so patrolling, land nav, and stuff like that, and then basic first aid teaching for them. So I did that every year as well. So that's a big exercise. So it's a weekend long, 3.5 day long exercise up in the mountains, and did that every year. While I was there, I also did deployment with the infantry. I was assigned as an individual augmentee, which means that unit needed more personnel. With 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines. I was on the deployment. I was actually with Echo Company, 1st Platoon as a senior corpsman. But during workups, I was initially assigned to the EOD escort unit. So I worked with the EOD guys for about a month straight, knowing what to look for. Specifically, went to their actual training facility during workups and walked their lanes and learned a lot about what to look for and how to help them in, if needs be, to disarm or set up to disarm bombs, IEDs. From there, came back from my deployment and decided I actually applied to do search and rescue medical technician for the Navy before I left on deployment, and had applied for that. When I got back, I found out that I got picked up for the program. So from there, I went to a school shortly after I got back from my deployment. That school didn't do a whole lot of anything outdoors other than PT. My second school, though, was Naval Air Crew Candidate School, which is a lot of water survival stuff. Spent lots of time in the pool and some time out in the bay there. It's in Pensacola, Florida. But a lot of water survival and use of all the survival gear that's in your flight vest. I was a rotor wing guy, so we did stuff like the helidunker. Within a flight vest for helo guys, you have a small, essentially a scuba tank that's good for, if I remember correctly, 8 to 12 minutes. Learned how to use that and do a miniature obstacle course underwater with it. So up to that point, I had done field medical service school, which had land nav and field survival stuff, basic, and then deployment with the Marines, and then that school, Air Crew School. From there, I went to SEER School, Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape, which is a roughly month-long, 3.5-week school up in Brunswick, Maine, which lots of survival stuff. The majority of it I did know from my own research growing up, and from some of my previous schools as far as like the land nav stuff goes. But you spend a full week and a half up in the mountains, and I was there in December, so we were snowshoeing the whole time. It started snowing on the bus ride up to the mountain, and it stopped snowing when we got on the bus to come home, so we had snow the entire time. A lot of fun. But basic survival stuff: fire, snow shelters, land nav, how to procure animals, how to skin and clean animals, which was really funny for us country guys, because a lot of the city boys had never even thought about it. Once leaving SEER School, I went to the Army Flight Medic School, which is a joint course for Navy and Army personnel. But at the Army Flight Medic course, do a little bit of small unit stuff. They do require you to do land nav at night at the course. Your final exercises is almost an all-nighter, which is nothing compared to some other training. But you do an all-nighter of patrolling. You get dropped off, go pick up a patient, and actually have to exfil them to another LZ or a landing zone to be picked up. So you're treating the patient the whole way, you're patrolling the whole way, you're doing land nav, and you have to start a fire and boil water in the middle of the night with everything else. So a little bit of survival in that course, but not a whole lot. And then from there, went on to my actual command, where I finished up my training to become a search and rescue corpsman. I was stationed in North Carolina at Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point. So we did a lot of stuff in the Croatan National Forest. Was a huge national forest there. It's literally like 10 minutes down the road from the base. So we went over basic survival stuff for the environment there. So it's all piney woods there. While I was at Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point, I did another deployment with the Naval Air Ambulance Detachment. It's a joint unit. It's drawn primarily from 3 squadrons as far as the aircraft and all the personnel, except for the Navy corpsmen. We're pulled from all over the Navy. At the time when I got out, there was either 46 or 48 of us, so there was not a whole lot of us. So another deployment in Iraq. My first deployment, forgot to mention, was in Iraq with 2nd Battalion 3rd Marines. Second deployment, we covered all of Kuwait for medevac and all of southern Iraq for medevacs. So not a whole lot on that second deployment as far as like small unit tactics or anything like my first deployment, patrolling and stuff like that, because I was with the infantry unit, like I said. But my second deployment, a lot of flying. It's a lot of hurry up and wait. Basically, you're sitting around waiting for a call for medical reasons to go pick up a patient, either transfer them or go pick them up from a point of injury and take them somewhere. While I was on my last deployment, shortly before it, I found CrossFit through one of my buddies. He and I went on the deployment together. So I did basically 6 months of doing CrossFit while I was on that deployment and fell in love with it. That's if you've watched any of my fitness and skills videos, those are somewhat based off CrossFit methodology, constantly varied functional movement practiced at high intensity or performed at high intensity. So with that being said, and like I said in my previous video, I'm going to try and do one of those a week, and they're going to kind of lean more towards CrossFit type workouts because that's what I like and that's what works for me from somewhere. When I got back from that deployment, I was in the Navy for about it's about 8 months. Then I got out and was working on doing a couple other things my wife came up for, as my wife is still active duty. And so we went to Italy for 3 years. Did a whole lot of hiking, kayaking, and some camping while we were there. I've been a rock climber off and on throughout most of my life. One of my uncles was into it. He's kind of an extreme sports kind of guy, so he got me and one of my cousins into climbing pretty young. But while I was there, we had a really nice indoor gym on base, and moved on and learned lead climbing or sport climbing, as opposed to top rope. Top rope is where your rope is already on the wall and you just clip in at the bottom and climb. With lead climbing or sport climbing, you're clipping in as you go. So learning that skill while I was there, and while I was there in Italy, I wanted something to force myself to practice the skills I had learned at my previous schools and skills that I had learned on my own as far as survival and bushcraft. And I was watching YouTube, and through Joe Rogan at Outdoors, he had talked about Bushcraft USA. So got on there and started doing bush class. If you don't know what Bushcraft USA is, it's a forum for bushcraft, but on it they have an online course for practicing bushcraft. There's 3 levels: basic, intermediate, and advanced. Highly recommend it, even if you've been doing bushcraft and survival for years. For me, it was something that forced me to practice my skills. It forced me to practice skills that I may have learned 2 or 3 times at a school, but didn't make them become muscle memory, did not force myself to practice them. So by going through that course, I forced myself to practice those skills and then learn new skills as well that I had never been taught at any of my other schools or come across in my own research and learning. So while I was there, I finished the majority of the basic course while we were in Italy, and then when we got back here to America, we're in Virginia now. My wife is stationed here in Virginia. I finished up the basic course and the intermediate course since we've been back. We've been back about 1.5 years now, and I'm in the middle of the advanced course on Bushcraft USA. Which brings me to my YouTube channel. The reason I have my YouTube channel initially was for posting the requirements for the classes. With each class, with each section of the class, you're required to perform a task and either put in video or pictures of you doing whatever the task is. And some of them got to the point where where pictures was going to be just too much to do. So I started my YouTube channel to post my classes onto that. So about half of my videos on YouTube are for Bushcraft USA's Bush class. The other half are just skills that I personally want to practice. Or that people have asked me about, like the Bushcraft chest rig video. I did that because I had a problem carrying gear with my kid's backpack, my youngest daughter's carrier. But because of that, a couple of people have asked me about it, and I've put that other vest together, and then, like I said, gone over that initial vest as well. And as of right now, I am, like I said, in the middle of the advanced portion of that school. So like I was saying, I started my YouTube channel to post videos onto the Bushcraft USA's bush class, pardon me. The name is O.T.R.Outdoors. O.T.R. stands for Off the Reservation. I came up with that several years ago with the intent of using it for either my school, once I eventually have my own school, or like I said, I found CrossFit years and years ago and really fell in love with it. For a while I looked into opening my own gym, and I was going to name it that. Off the Reservation to me is to break away from the norm, to do something different, to not do exactly what society says to do as far as your fitness or your outdoor life. There are tons and tons of research that shows that spending time outdoors, hiking, camping, just spending time in the outdoors has huge health benefits. I'm not going to go into great detail on that, but there are lots of benefits to that. And then with the CrossFit thing, just healthy body allows you to go further into the wilderness or carry more gear if that's what you choose to do. But it makes those things easier. A lot of my hobbies, it 99% of my hobbies it benefits me in. Like I said, I rock climb, I snowboard. I haven't been on skis in years, but I'm actually debating on putting skis back on. Kayak, canoe. I've been in canoeing and kayaking since I was young. On the ranch, we always had at least a canoe on one of the lakes, so lots of canoeing growing up as well. But canoeing and kayaking. So being healthy and fit helps you in the woods, helps you in everyday life. So I'm going to continue to post videos like I've been doing, fitness and skills related stuff. With that also being said, I am currently in the process of getting back on active duty. I'm going to join the Air Force and be a SEER specialist. Basically, I'm going to teach survival for a living for the Air Force, along with a few other things. I have finished my physical and all of my screenings, and 2 weeks ago I passed the PT test, the test. It's called the PASS test, physical abilities and stamina test. Right now, I am literally waiting on a date to go to a miniaturized boot camp and then my first course. So in the meantime, I'm going to continue to do videos. From what we know right now, I should not be leaving until May or June timeframe. May being the earliest, June being the latest. So that from now until then, I will continue to shoot videos. If you are not on my Facebook or Instagram, I would highly recommend you go check those out, O.T.R.Outdoors, because when I'm at school, I'm not going to be able to make a whole lot of videos. I will, however, be able to post pictures fairly regularly while I'm at school. So if you're not on those, and I post at least twice a week on those now, and that will continue to be the same. I don't know that it will be the same days, but I will continue to post on those while I'm at school, knowing the fact that I won't be able to make videos, or it's highly unlikely that I will be able to shoot, edit, and post videos while I'm at school. School overall, it's about a month and a half at my first location in Texas in San Antonio, and then I'll be in Spokane, Washington, so I get to see the other side of the state of Washington, and I'll be up there for a total of just shy of about 4 years. But all of the schools, Katniss is over here, my cat. So my first school, like I said, is in San Antonio. First 2 schools is in San Antonio, or are in San Antonio, and they're about a month and a half by the time they're both done. And then up to Washington, 2 months of preschool and then 5 months of school. So between start to finish, it's about a year worth of school roughly. And then from there, I'll start teaching at one of the courses in Spokane, Washington. For 3 years. I'll rotate between the schools, but I'll be up there for 3 years. With that being said, also, I'm waiting on my box still. I just got an email yesterday from the company. I got picked up to be an ambassador for MadFitter. MadFitter is a CrossFit related company. They sell their initial thing that I found them for are wrist wraps. It's a veteran owned, it's actually an active duty owned company. The guy originally started making wrist wraps off of uniforms. He would take people's old uniforms and make them wrist wraps to match whatever branch of service they were in. And then he's come from there. They've made several other things since then, but I'm always going to try and support any active duty or veteran company that I come in contact with. And they put out about a month and a half, 2 months ago, that they were looking for ambassadors, and I applied to the program and got picked up. So I'm still waiting on my initial box with all my information to put out to y'all about what all it entails and what I'll be doing. But I am going to be an ambassador for that company. With that being said, I'm not going to shove it down y'all's throat. Y'all know me. If I'm going to tell y'all about a product or a company, it's a company I either personally use or a product I personally use. And I enjoy using it and I like using it and it's good. It works for me. It may not work for you, but I'm not going to shove anything down y'all's throat as far as, oh, you need to go buy this, you need to go buy this, you need to go buy this. If it's really good and I have personally used it, I'll tell you about it just so you know that it's there. Maybe something you've never heard of. But I'm not going to run around and tell y'all, oh, you need to go buy this, and you need to go buy that, and you need to go buy this. I'll tell you what works for me, and if you ask, I'll elaborate. But otherwise, unless it's something absolutely amazing that I've used for a long period of time, I'm not going to do reviews. I'm not going to do unboxings. I'll tell you something about a piece of gear that I have that I really like and that I would highly recommend. But other than that, that's as far as that's going to go. All right, so that's kind of me in a nutshell. Grew up in the woods, hunting, fishing, hiking, camping, continue to do it throughout my whole life. I've gone through several schools throughout my military career that have benefited that, along with my own personal research and learning from other people that I've come in contact with throughout the years. Like I said earlier, I am no expert by any means, and what I show in my videos is what works for me. It may not work for you. I would encourage you to try it. I come across new stuff all the time in my research or through YouTube or whatever the case is, that I'm like, I don't know if that'll work for me, but I'm going to try it, and then I can tweak it to where it works for me. I would highly recommend you do the same thing for yourself. Or if you watch me simply for entertainment value, great, awesome. I'm happy to oblige. If you watch Funker Tactical, GN, the guy who does all the video and editing, he uses the term white belt for life. If you're not familiar with martial arts, white belt is what you start out at. That's where you're learning everything. And I really like that saying, and I really try to live that white belt for life, always learning, either from people, from YouTube, from books, whatever the case is, always learning something. Try to learn something new every day. And there, if you have any questions, comments, shout outs, whatever you want to do, you can email me at O.T.R.Outdoors@gmail.com, or you can leave a comment on video. Remember, there's always a storm coming. Keep your powder dry, your axe, your knife sharp, and eye on your back trail. We'll see y'all next time.